Glorious devotees, thank you for coming to view another presentation on Sri Madhurya Kadambini by Sri Visvanatha Cakravarti Ṭhakura. We continue now with the stages of Anista Bhajana Kriya. We have covered 4 of these stages, and we will continue today with the 5th. These 6 conditions manifest in the heart and mind of the devotee who has not yet attained steadiness in bhajan, revealing his degree of advancement. Sri Visvanatha Cakravarti Ṭhakura will now elaborate on each of these conditions and provide examples. The 5th of these 6 forms is Niyamaksamma, vow failure. Visvanatha writes in his Sri Madhurya Kadambini, now the stage called vow failure, Niyamaksamma, is discussed. In this stage a devotee decides, from today I will chant such and such a quota of japa, and will pay so many obeisances. I will also serve the devotees. I will not talk about anything unrelated with the Lord, and will give up all association of persons engaged in mundane talks. Though the devotee makes such vows every day, he is unable to always carry them out. The difference between the sensual struggle, Visaya Sangara, and vow failure, Niyamaksamma, is that the former is the inability to give up sense enjoyment, while the latter is the inability to accomplish one's intentions for positive engagement in devotional activities. The main cause for the inability to uphold vows is that a taste for the sweetness of the name, form, qualities, and pastimes of the Lord is not yet manifest. Once the slightest taste develops, one is not able to neglect regular practice or devotional obligations. Six forms or stages of Anista Bhajana Kriya, Taranga Rangini, whirling in the waves. Now the stage, called Taranga Rangini, is discussed. The very nature of bhakti is that when it exists in a devotee, everyone becomes attracted to him. Even the old sages have said, by the attraction of the people one becomes wealthy. Faculties like profit, respect, and distinction arising from bhakti are just weeds around the bhakti creeper that are compared to waves on the bhakti ocean. In this stage, a devotee doing bhajan seeks pleasure, ranga, arising out of these waves, taranga. Hence, this stage is called Taranga Rangini. From the Padma Purana, Rupa Goswami has written, a person who has worshipped the Lord with unflinching devotion brings satisfaction to the whole world. All creatures, moving and non-moving, take pleasure in him. Rupa Goswami has also quoted the Tantra as follows in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. All kinds of pleasure, material and spiritual, automatically come to the devotee. Through devotion to Govinda, one attains all perfection in mystic yoga, all kinds of sensual pleasure, liberation, and the supreme transcendental bliss. Sri Chaitanya spoke to Srila Rupa Goswami as follows. Sometimes large numbers of suckers sprout from the creeper's main stem. These are the innumerable desires for material enjoyment, liberation, performance of forbidden acts, deceit, duplicity, fault-finding, violence towards other living beings, material gain, respect, fame, and so on. When one waters the bhakti creeper, these suckers also flourish, curtailing the growth of the main stem. So the gardener's first job is to prune away unwanted branches, thus allowing the main stem to grow all the way to Vrindavan. These personal pleasures, ranga, which come as byproducts of bhakti and manifest in profit, adoration, and distinction, are also compared to small waves, taranga, on the bhakti ocean. In this stage, the devotee is distracted by these byproducts and takes pleasure in them. Adopting a sense of personal accomplishment, the devotee abandons the deep humility that acknowledges mercy, Kripa Shakti of Guru, Krishna, and the association of devotees. In other words, he does his devotional practice while whirling in the waves. This is the great pitfall on the devotional path called Taranga Rangini. Using the head to soften the heart, one who deeply contemplates the causeless nature of bhakti, maintaining realistic expectations, will easily overcome this final stage of unsteady devotion and advance blissfully to the stage, Nista. We now begin the third shower of Sri Visvanatha Cakravarti Ṭhakura's Madhurya Kadambini, removing Anarthas. So we are going gradually from the stage of Shraddha through the stage of Anista Bhajana Kriya. We begin this third stage with a look at the four kinds of Anarthas. Vishwanath writes, "We will now explain Anartha Nivritti, or cessation of unwanted elements, those that are unfavorable to bhakti. Anarthas are of four types: those arising from sin, those arising from past pious works, those arising from offenses of various sorts, and those arising from devotion itself. Anarthas arising from sin are equivalent to the 5 kleshas mentioned in the previous chapter. Anarthas arising from pious activities are the various kinds of sense enjoyments. Anarthas arising from offenses refer principally to nam aparad, offenses to the holy name. There are other offenses incurred during the worship of the deity known as seva aparad, but these do not play as important a role. However, if one is careless about these seva aparads, knowing that they are easily counteracted by chanting or reciting prayers, they then turn into nama aparad, for it is said, committing sin on the strength of the holy name is one of the nama aparads. In this verse, the holy name is taken as a sanectaki, upalaksana, meaning that it stands in for all devotional practices. Committing sins on the strength of any devotional practice is offensive. Even the Dharma Shastras state that sins become even more deeply entrenched if one purposefully commits sins thinking that he can counteract their evil effects by performing atonements. The power of devotion and the effect of Anarthas. Pure devotional service rendered to the Supreme Lord, consisting of hearing, chanting, meditating, accepting it with faith, or praising others who perform it, immediately purifies even those who are envious of the Lord and the universe. Anything that opposes and creates obstacles to the paramartha, supreme spiritual attainment, is called an anartha. Narottam Das Thakur has sung, "My greatest fear is that the obstacles to my devotional practice will not go away. Let's take a deeper look at these anarthas, coming in the different forms, beginning with the first, those anarthas arising from sinful activities, duskritotha anartha. These obstacles to devotional life arise out of sins committed in our past. Vishwanath mentioned the 5 kleshas earlier, and these are the anarthas that result from sinful activities. Living entities in this world have forgotten Krishna since time immemorial. Bound by ignorance and material desires, one is attached to the bodily conception of life and the false ego of I and mine. When these desires distract us from engagement in Shravanam, Kirtanam, and other devotional activities, it is known as an anartha arising from our sinful past. Sukritotha anartha, obstacle rising from our past pious activities. Desire for the temporary pleasures of higher realms like heaven, arising from past pious activities, are known as Sukritotha anartha. Due to samskaras, impressions, the desire for sense enjoyment or liberation arise in the heart during devotional practice. Thus, one is not able to relish the taste of bhakti. Srila Rupa Goswami writes, "How can the joy of devotion manifest within the heart as long as the witches of desire for sense enjoyment and liberation remain there?" Now we come to obstacles arising out of offenses. Aparadotha anartha. The anarthas arising out of offenses are generally the most difficult obstacles to advancement on the path of devotion. There is a great difference between sin, which is easily destroyed by a glimpse of devotion, bhajana bhas, and spiritual offenses, which cause havoc on the path to prema bhakti. If one's heart does not change, tears do not flow from his eyes, his body does not shiver, and his bodily hairs do not stand on end as he chants the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, it should be understood that his heart is as hard as iron. This is due to his offenses at the lotus feet of the Lord's holy name. The last of the 4 anarthas, Bhaktya Uta anartha, anartha arising from bhakti, or devotion itself. People are naturally attracted to those who make genuine progress in spiritual life. Thus, wealth, respect, fame, and other comforts naturally come to the devotee. These can prove to be heavy obstacles to progress and the ultimate attainment of prema. Devotees wishing to achieve the real goal of bhakti should carefully guard against all these material desires and stick close to the devotional path with humility and detachment. If the devotional practitioner's heart is attracted to things like profit, adoration, and distinction, then even though engaged in bhajan, he gets nothing but these anarthas. We can see that this 4th of the 4 anarthas also corresponds to the 6th stage of Anista Bhajana Kriya, Taranga Ragini, riding in the waves. Some further considerations. Sins are less serious than aparads. Sins are harmful activities like theft, adultery, murder, lying, etc., motivated by desires in the heart resulting from bodily consciousness. Acceptance of the material body as the self is based upon an illusory conception of life which stands in opposition to the reality of one's true spiritual existence. Therefore, sins of the flesh are much less serious for they do not in fact touch the transcendental spirit soul. Their effects are manifest in the material body and mind. Aparadhs are much graver than sin, for their effects cover the spirit soul itself. The Lord, His holy name, His devotees, His abodes, His leelas, etc., are completely of a spiritual nature, and when we consider them material, or disrespect, disdain, or ridicule them in any way, then we commit aparadh. Wicked actions committed in relation to the non-self are thus known as sins, and those that affect the soul, or true self, are known as aparadh. The root, rad, means satisfaction, and the prefix apa adds the sense of moving away. Acts that cause the dissatisfaction of the Lord, the holy name, the Guru, and the Vaishnavas are called aparadhs. The main cause for attaining the Lord are devotion, the sadhus, and the Lord's mercy. Disrespect, faithlessness, negligence, and blasphemy of bhakti, bhakta, and bhagavan are the chief obstacles to attaining prema. The best way to overcome such offenses is to exercise extreme caution in our dealings with them, to take shelter of them in full awareness of their true identity, and to show them full respect. By engaging in bhajan in this way, all offenses will be destroyed. Now let us take a look at the seva aparadhs in relationship with our worship of the Lord in His deity form. Seva aparadh are nullified by chanting the holy name, prayers, and service. But care must be taken to not adopt the offensive mentality by relying upon the strength of chanting the holy name, for such mentality offends the holy name. We have shown some of the seva aparadhs as we read about them. They are presented in detail in Sri Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, and the serious student should read and study them there. Sri Visvanatha Cakravarti Ṭhakura points out in his verse that the sixth offense to the holy name, not committing sin on the strength of chanting, is to be taken as an upalakshana, meaning that it stands in for any devotional activity. One should not use any kind of devotional activity as an excuse for sinful behavior. I want to sincerely thank you for viewing this presentation on Sri Visvanatha Cakravarti Ṭhakura's Madhurya Kadambini, dealing with the different stages of Anista Bhajana Kriya, and beginning with our in-depth discussion of the Anarthas that can hamper our spiritual growth. This discussion will continue in the next presentation.